Hey, what's up everyone? Here's a pretty special episode of the eComm Swipe File. We actually did this one with one of our customers and quite frankly a friend, John Roman, who is the CEO of BattleBox and Carnivore Club. So two subscription boxes you've probably heard of. We talked about ways to reduce churn and some of the ways that you can do that with Gorgias as well as one of our partners, Churn. We actually did this episode in conjunction with an organization that we are a member of called Subta. Subta is a subscription trade association. So it doesn't matter if you're a subscription box like John sells, if you're a consumable good on subscription, even if you're a big company like Netflix, it's still a subscription. So if you do anything that's reoccurring, definitely check out Subta. We're usually at their events, although with the current COVID-19 situation, we're not doing too many events these days. So take a look for some of the digital content that we're going to be launching and enjoy this special episode of the eComm Swipe File. What's going on, everyone? It's Lucas from Gorgias here. As you can tell by the sign in the background of the Patagonia, here with one of our customers who's such an awesome use case, John Roman from BattleBox and Carnivore Club, and I will let John explain what his companies do, but they are some of the best subscription boxes around. So John, if you want to introduce yourself and what BattleBox does and some of the other companies that you guys do.
Thanks, Lucas. So BattleBox is a monthly subscription box that's focused on outdoor and survival gear. So everything from a water filtration system to a tent or even a two-man tent. We really push the envelope when it comes to that traditional thinking of subscription boxes. It's going to be this little tiny boxes. You know, we've sent out 16-pound boxes before.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
Shipping nightmare.
Oh yeah, I don't envy you for that, but as a customer, that's pretty boss.
But yeah, it's just totally a different experience.
I like it too from a customer perspective that it encouraged me to get out and just do new things.
Right. I mean, that's you know, one of our mantras is get outside. Whether it's people our age or even kids, getting them out from being stuck behind a monitor playing video games trying to be Twitch famous.
Instead of setting up an actual campground and chopping wood, let's get out and cut down a tree.
Kids don't know how to do it anymore.
No, and it's one of the most satisfying things you can do, and it's being out in nature. It has so many benefits. It improves your memory. It's good for your mental health. I'm actually taking a vacation in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to bring my hiking shoes and just get outside and get some fresh air again. Because it's especially now with coronavirus, we're all indoors a little bit more, which is part of the reason that we're recording this virtually instead of in person.
So that's BattleBox. Been around a little over 5 years at this point. Actually. Last month was our 5-year anniversary.
Oh, congrats. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. So the other brand we have, Carnivore Club. So Carnivore Club is actually a brand older than BattleBox. It's, I believe, coming close to 7 or 8 years now. It was a Canadian company. They did the Dragon's Den.
That's awesome. So the two brands, long-lasting internet businesses, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen subscription businesses come and go. And that's actually a nice little segue into what we're talking about is reducing churn, because a lot of people want to do subscriptions. They want to get new customers, but it's that quote from The Office, which is actually very true. It's 5 to 10 times easier to keep a customer, especially somebody who's on subscription where they're already being charged, rather than to go out and get a new subscriber and you have to get 2.5 monthly shipments before you get your payback on them or whatever those metrics happen to be. And so thank you so much for opening up your little secret box of tools and tactics to help reduce churn. So John, we were talking before we started recording that there is no silver bullet. It's really getting in a bunch of smaller micro strategies in place to reduce that. So I'd love you to sort of tell the listeners, walk us through and show us what you can about that to help other subscription companies reduce their churn.
Sure. So you articulated it perfectly. There's a bunch of micro strategies and together they make enough impact to really move the needle. So looking back, 5 years ago, and it's a shame, and I wish, it's embarrassing to admit, but we weren't really focused on churn. We're getting customers for $4 or $5. I hate to be frank, but come on.
Well, I heard Dollar Shave Club's cost to acquire a customer was $5.
Yeah.
And just insane.
Yeah. It was a completely different wild west back then, and the focus probably by any e-commerce companies weren't focused enough on churn, and they should have been. But starting probably way over a year, probably a year and a half ago, we we kind of said, okay, how do we attack churn? I think industry average for subscription boxes, you might have a better data metric than myself, but I want to say maybe 12% is probably accurate.
It depends. It depends on the industry, and it depends on the time of year as well. We did a deep dive into our tickets around Black Friday, and there were a lot of subscription cancellation requests then, but you can be a subscription company and not necessarily a subscription box. There's a lot of nuances in there. People will sign up for a subscription just to either to try it, to make sure that they like the box, which is, I'm assuming, is one of the strategies, to make sure that their first experience is flawless. But also, if they have a really aggressive discount that's an additional 30% off, or get your first shipment for only $1, people will take advantage of that and then cancel. So there are some additional churn. It's really nuanced to each business. So industry standard is around 12%. It might depend on the industry. It might be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. If you're above 12%, you should probably try to get it a little bit lower. If you're below, a little bit below, you're probably doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we took a look, we were in the 12 to 13%. Seasonality might raise it a little bit, and we really wanted to figure out how do we move the needle. And what we found is we had to break it down in a bunch of things. We had to make sure the experience and the onboarding experience, not just the box experience, just experience from deciding you're signing up and getting that first welcome email, all the way through getting your first box and what that experience is, even to the follow-up and the maintaining of the relationship. Are all ways to adjust that number. So that's one bucket. And then, maintaining the relationship, you could argue is the same bucket. But once you get into the churn piece specifically, you have two categories. You have traditional churn. You didn't like the box, you cancel. And then you have passive churn, which is often overlooked, where they didn't choose to log into your account and cancel. Their credit card's wrong, insufficient funds, they fat fingered your email address. Yeah, it's a handful of reasons. And eventually, after the dunning process and after the renewal attempts, they're gone.
Yeah, so it's, because I think most credit card processors will try it 3 times, but if the card's expired or there was an error, you can try it 500 times, it won't matter, it still won't go through.
So we broke churn down to normal churn and then passive churn. And the tidbit I want to share today is something we do with passive churn,
which I think is very relatable to most businesses, because they're probably having the same issues that you did. So I really appreciate you sharing something that is so tactical that everyone can take advantage of.
Sure. So as the dunning process goes on, and nothing, again, Shopify or whoever you use, the emails are very generalized. Hey, card didn't work. And if you're sending that same exact email a couple of times, you're possibly flagging spam filters. It was just an area for us to really pick up some ground. So we obviously customized that process of the renewal window with multiple emails, different voices, different personalities, really humanizing. Hey, your card's not working. You don't want to lose the subscription. We don't want you to. The guys in the warehouse are just sitting there. They don't know what to do with their box, and just engaging with the customers. So we use Churn Buster for that, and it gives some good data, good metrics, knowing open rate, recovery rate, click-through rate, stuff like that. But what we also did is, in the first month, we built that. We saw instant success, bringing churn down. But then we said, okay, well, it's good. How do we get it better? And the next step is we added webhooks, where after a certain part of that journey of dunning failure, we're kicking off when we're doing two webhooks. One, we're kicking off a ticket in Gorgias to our tier 2, tier 3, our higher level folks, letting them know, hey, this customer's in jeopardy. So instead of the traditional email, let's use other options. If they're opted into SMS, or we have a connection with their Facebook Messenger already. Let's ping. Let's see if we can have a conversation. Maybe they want to cancel, and we can help them do that too.
And that's a good point too, because it's not always the last impression that someone has, it's the lasting impression. If their last impression of you, or if all they remember you for is that you made it so hard to cancel,
right,
they'll never recommend you to anyone. But if it's, yeah, you know what, we had a lot of awesome stuff, but I never get to go camping anymore. But yeah, absolutely sign up. Their customer service is awesome. Helping your customer do what they're going to do anyway is only going to be a net positive for you.
Exactly. So that's the first part. The second part is we have, it actually goes as a Slack notification, but the tier 2, tier 3 grab this as well. So it's this person from the beginning. They've already had a bad experience because they fat fingered their email address when they signed up in the BattleBox or the Carnivore Club or the Insert Your Brand Here experience, and make sure that we make them warm and fuzzy inside and give them a good experience. Doing all those things together on the passive churn side just really moved the needle. And it's surprisingly shocking that companies don't do this.
No, they don't. It's pretty automated too, which is one of our big ethos at Gorgias, is automate what you can. Once you set up churn busters in those webhooks, maybe it's an afternoon to set it all up. If that, every time that they go through, if you bring them back, well, you know what the LTV is of that. Even if it's one more box, that's pure profit for just a quick notification. Hey, your card expired. Here's how you can update it.
Exactly. And speaking of the automation, that first touch from the tier 2, tier 3 team, they're using a Gorgias macro that they make. They're not, and surprisingly, coming from a different source of email, it's not being set the exact same way. Sometimes those get through.
That actually is interesting as well from a deliverability standpoint too. That's actually a very advanced e-commerce tip. If you are having deliverability issues, try sending it a one-on-one from a different source. Well, John, I really appreciate you sharing that. Is focus on that passive churn and identify why it's happening, because everyone who has credit cards on file, they all expire. People make mistakes. You can never get more than 100% accuracy, and nobody's at 100%. So you can really identify that. So if you don't mind sharing, what did you get that churn rate down to?
So we got our churn actually down to 4%.
Wow. So you reduced it 2/3. You reduced your churn to 66%.
Now there were a bunch of the experience piece. We didn't spend a lot of time, but we made a lot of changes in that. And there were some other tips too. The one we went through, the passive churn and the churn piece, was one of the bigger needle movers. But so right now we're with the seasonality of January and February and people signing up for subscriptions and then not really wanting them. It's fluctuated. So right now we're between 4 and 6%. But it's still it's even if 6 becomes
even your worst day is twice as good as the average. So
acquisition costs have gone up and harder to acquire customers for the same rates as before. It's been a nice balance to not make that such a fire drill.
The cost required customers only going up and up and up. You can do different hacks and find different arbitrages and channels, but the days of throwing up an ad with mediocre copy and some emojis and getting $5 customers or less, those days are long gone. I remember when I think we both got into e-commerce around the same time, and all the courses said you can start testing ads for just $5 a day, and you would get 2 or 3 sales or add to carts for $5. That's long gone.
Bad ideas too. Not even good ideas.
Terrible ideas. It's like random things, like dumb stuff like notebooks or like a gum holder for not like to hold your chewing gum. And people would make money on these items, drop shipping them at like $6 and acquiring a customer for $2. And their cost of goods sold was $2 every time you get a sale. They'd make $2 or whatever dumb item the thing that happened to be. John, thank you so much for sharing that. How even on the worst day you were able to reduce your churn by half, and on a good day reduce your churn by 2/3. Where can people find you? Where can people find BattleBox? Where can they find Carnivore Club? Sounds like an awesome product, both of them. So where can we find you guys?
So BattleBox is battlebox.com. That's BATTLBOX. There's no E in there. And Carnivore Club is exactly how it sounds, .co. So
awesome.
.com or carnivoreclub.ca.
Appreciate it, John. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe for this video, and the podcast 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
If you enjoyed this episode of the eComm Swipe File, you can obviously find more about Carnivore Club or BattleBox, two great subscription boxes I definitely recommend. But if you would like to learn more about Subta, you can check them out. If you just Google Subta, S-U-B-T-A, the Subscription Trade Association, you'll find their website with all kinds of local events as well as resources for you. And of course, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like that video, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to share this with your mother-in-law.